Namaskar. President Ram Nath Kovind addressed the nation on the eve of the 75th Independence Day, and he said that India has travelled a considerable distance at a steady pace and the urban and rural divides have reduced considerably. He lauded the leadership and all concerned for India's tremendous response to the arrest the second wave of COVID, and he also spoke of India's aspirational goals for the next 25 years. In international news, our lens continues to focus on the fast-paced developments in Afghanistan, where the Afghan forces claim to have killed 60 Taliban insurgents as fighting intensifies. We'll discuss these developments with experts. My name is Mark Lynn. Let's begin with the headlines. President Ram Nath Kovind's address to the nation on the eve of the 75th Independence Day focuses on welfare of the poor, downtrodden farmers as well as rural India. He expresses satisfaction at the growth in rural India, particularly the agricultural sector, against all odds, says agri-reforms will empower our Annadata farmers. President urges the people, especially the youth of Jammu and Kashmir, to utilize opportunities arising from the new dawn in Jammu and Kashmir, and says that because of all-round progress, India's stature is rising in the international arena. The world is increasingly turning to the wisdom of India to tackle global challenges like climate change. President Ram Nath Kovind lauds the collective determination of the nation to overcome the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic, salutes COVID warriors who emulated the spirit of selfless service just like our freedom fighters, urges one and all to get vaccinated and not to let their guard down. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announces that the 14th of August will be observed as the Partition Horror Remembrance Day, in memory of the struggles and sacrifices of people who were displaced during partition. Decision hailed by several union ministers as well as people from all walks of life. President Ashraf Ghani addresses the nation and says that remobilization of the country's armed forces was a top priority. Afghan forces claim to have killed at least 60 Taliban insurgents in Balkh province. Voicing concern that Afghanistan is spinning out of control, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls on the Taliban to immediately halt the offensive. The nation will celebrate the 75th Independence Day tomorrow as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Prime Minister to lead the celebrations from Red Fort, security preparations in place across the country. The public service broadcaster Doordarshan deputes over 30 cameras for a 360-degree coverage. President Ram Nath Kovind hosts high tea at Rashtrapati Bhavan in honor of the athletes who participated in the Tokyo Olympics. Lauds the sportspersons for bringing laurels to the country with their stellar performances, especially the daughters of India. Pedal for Health cycling event held in the national capital as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations. The Union Health Minister and the Union Sports Minister participate and urge citizens to cycle to stay fit. Our top story. On the eve of India's 75th Independence Day, President Ram Nath Kovind recalled the exceptional efforts of scientists and frontline workers in bringing the second wave of COVID under control. He noted that vaccines were developed in a very short time. The President praised the government of India for rising to the challenge, ably assisted by the states as well as the private sector. Let's look at this full report.
Leading the nation in celebrating its 75th Independence Day, President Ram Nath Kovind addressed the nation on the eve of the historic day. For the second year, it comes amidst the challenge of a global pandemic. President Kovind said, while the scale of celebrations may have been impacted, our hearts remain filled with enthusiasm. The intensity of the pandemic has come down, but the coronavirus has not yet gone away. Recalling the devastating effects of the second wave, President Kovind recalled the exceptional efforts that helped bring the spread of infections under control, adding that the nation's scientists succeeded in developing vaccines in a very short time.
At the beginning of this year, there was every reason to be hopeful as we launched the largest vaccination exercise in history. Yet, due to the new variants and other unexpected factors, we suffered from a terrible second wave. I am deeply sad that many lives could not be saved and many more suffered immensely in this phase of an unprecedented crisis. I speak for the whole nation when I say that I share the grief of all the affected families with the same intensity.
President Ram Nath Kovind recalled the stress that the second wave brought on India's public healthcare infrastructure. He said efforts were made on war footing to plug the gaps. The leadership rose to the challenge and the government's endeavours were supplemented by initiatives of the states, private sector healthcare facilities, the civil society and others. The President thanked the global fraternity for sharing essentials generously, just as India had reached out to many nations with medicine equipment and vaccines. He urged all eligible citizens to get vaccinated at the earliest.
If we have learned our lessons well, we know that this is the time of extra care and caution. We shall not let our guard down. Vaccines are the best possible protection science offers to us. Under the world's biggest vaccination campaign going on in our country, more than 50 crore fellow citizens have been vaccinated so far.
President Ram Nath Kovind highlighted the proactive measures taken to counter the economic impact of the pandemic. He said the government has been concerned about the lower middle classes and the poor, as well as about the small and medium industries and the needs of the labourers and employers who faced hardships due to lockdowns.
This year also, the government had distributed food grains to about 80 crore people in May and June. This benefit has been extended till Diwali. Moreover, the government has announced a new stimulus package worth rupees 6,28,000 crore to boost the selected COVID-affected sectors. In particular, it is heartening to note that an amount of rupees 23,220 crore is being spent over 1 year for expansion of medical facilities.
Concluding his address, President Ram Nath Kovind recalled the spirit of patriotism and sacrifice among India's freedom fighters. Drawing a parallel with COVID warriors, he said they faced all kinds of challenges serving humanity selflessly. Many of them even succumbed to COVID-19. In a befitting tribute to both our freedom fighters as well as COVID warriors, President Ram Nath Kovind paid homage to them. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, President Kovind highlighted the success of women in all walks of life. He lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initiatives to empower farmers. The President recalled India's rich tradition of living in harmony with nature, which can be found in the Vedas, the Upanishads, as well as the epics. And he said that India is doing more than just adhering to the Paris Climate Accord to arrest climate change. Here's more.
President Ram Nath Kovind, in his address to the nation on the eve of the 75th Independence Day, expressed pride in the fact that India's daughters are making their mark on every front, from higher educational institutions to armed forces, from laboratories to playgrounds. The President termed the success of our daughters as a glimpse of a developed India of the future. He urged every parent to take inspiration from the families of such promising daughters and emulate their encouragement to the girl child.
In the recently concluded Tokyo Olympics, our sports persons have brought laurels to the nation with their stellar performances. India has won the highest number of medals in the 121 years of its participation in the Olympics. Our daughters have achieved world-class excellence in playgrounds, overcoming many adversities. Along with the sports, epoch-making changes are taking place in the participation and success of women in all walks of life.
President Ram Nath Kovind hailed the fact that despite the challenges of the pandemic, rural India, particularly the agriculture sector, kept growing against all odds. Referring to a recent visit to his ancestral village, Parok, in Kanpur Dehat district, he said that better infrastructure is being developed in rural areas to make life better for people there. The psychological distance between the urban and rural is now much less as compared to the past. Lauding Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initiatives to empower farmers, President said that the series of agricultural marketing reforms will empower our Annadata farmers and help them get better price for their produce.
The psychological distance between the urban and the rural is now much less as compared to the past. After all, India lives in its villages, which cannot be allowed to lag behind in development. That is why special campaigns, including the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, are being implemented for the welfare of our farmers.
The President termed climate change as a reality of life, with seas rising, glaciers melting, and temperatures soaring. The tradition of living in harmony with nature can be found in the Vedas and Upanishads, as well as in Ramayana and Mahabharata. From Lord Mahavir, Lord Buddha, and Guru Nanak to Mahatma Gandhi, the President said that this spirit is also reflected in their lives. He said, Bapu advocated learning the art of living in tune with and listening to nature. President Ram Nath Kovind urged citizens to make necessary sacrifices for the sake of the land we live in.
India is proud of not only adhering to the Paris Climate Agreement, but doing more than what the country has committed to protect the climate. However, the world desperately needs a course correction. This is why the world is increasingly turning to the wisdom of India.
From recounting achievements to laying out challenges before the nation, President congratulated one and all on the eve of India's 75th Independence Day, calling on them to imagine a powerful, prosperous and peaceful India of 2047, when India will celebrate 100 years of independence. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, recalling independence, the President said that Mahatma Gandhi's principles of truth and non-violence make India's national movement stand out. He emphasized the strength of India's democracy as envisioned by the founding fathers. Here's more.
Now, as we look back to the 75-year journey of our republic, we have reasons to be proud of the considerable distance we have travelled. Gandhiji taught us that slow and steady steps in the right direction are preferable to rapid strides in the wrong direction. The world looks up at the miracle of India, home to the plurality of traditions and yet the biggest and most vibrant democracy.
Independence Day is a festival of freedom for India, made possible by great sacrifices of generations of freedom fighters. President Ram Nath Kovind bowed to their pious memory and heroic deeds that allow us to breathe under free skies. He said that Mahatma Gandhi's principles of truth and non-violence make India's nationalist movement stand out. The first citizen of the country said that when India won independence 75 years ago, many skeptics thought democracy would not survive in India. President Kovind said, our founding fathers reposed their faith in the wisdom of the people, and in return, we the people of India have made India a strong democracy.
We have adopted the system of parliamentary democracy. Therefore, our parliament is the temple of our democracy, which provides us the highest forum where we discuss, debate, and decide issues for the well-being of our people. It is a matter of great pride for all Indians that our parliament will soon be housed in a new building. It is more than symbolic that the new building will be inaugurated in the year of the 75th anniversary of independence.
Reiterating the Modi government's commitment to democracy and the rule of law, President urged people of Jammu and Kashmir to join in nation building while realizing their aspirations.
A new dawn is rising in Jammu and Kashmir. The government has initiated the process of consultation with all stakeholders who have faith in democracy and the rule of law. I urge the people, especially the youth of Jammu and Kashmir, to utilize this opportunity and work on realizing their aspirations through democratic institutions.
The first citizen of the nation said that with all-round progress, India's stature is rising in the international arena. This is reflected in India's participation in several key multilateral fora, as well as in consolidating bilateral relationships with several countries. President Ram Nath Kovind acknowledged that India still has a long way to go in realizing the dreams of those who won the freedom, emphatically saying that the spirit of unity in diversity that the nation is following is the right course to build a new India. Bureau Report, DD India.
You're with DD India. Here's a reminder of what to expect all day tomorrow.
India's 75th Independence Day, DD India will bring to you the nationalist spirit from India's mainland to its shore.
As India celebrates Amrit Mahotsav of independence, DD India will bring you the mood of the nation.
We will bring to you the transforming face of India from across the length and breadth of the country.
From the Bogeybill Bridge in Assam, watch with me how connectivity is on the rise in Northeast India.
I will tell you how one nation, one ration card, Mudra and PMJY are touching lives in Bihar.
After abrogation of Article 370, grassroots democracy is being strengthened.
From Kevadia, I will bring to you the essence of India's unity in diversity and how our freedom fighters, the heroes of our freedom struggle, are getting their rightful place in history.
And from Bengaluru, the headquarters of India's space odyssey. From ISRO, I will tell you about the reforms in space sector that promise to make India a superpower in space technology.
Get a sneak peek into the first made-in-India aircraft carrier of the Indian Navy with me, Nandita Dagar, from the INS Vikrant.
From benchmark infrastructure development to landmark decisions, shaping our course to a new India. On 15th of August, watch with us India's journey towards self-reliance.
So tune in all day tomorrow. Now coming back to the news here, well, the Taliban seems to be making some steady progress in its march to take control of Afghanistan by force. Now the hardline group is reported to have taken control of 18 of the country's 34 provinces, including Herat as well as Kandahar, the largest cities after Kabul. And the Ghani government still controls Kabul, and it was reinforced with 3,000 US troops being rushed in to help evacuation of the US personnel. But President Ashraf Ghani addressed the nation and he said that he was remobilizing the country's armed forces on a priority. Here's our comprehensive report.
خواهران و برادران گرامی السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته.
Though I know that you are worried about your current situation and your future, I assure you that as your president, my focus is on preventing the expansion of instability, violence and displacement of my people. As part of a historical mission, I will do my best to stop this imposed conflict on the Afghan people to result in further killing of innocent people. For this reason, we have started to hold extensive consultations.
Ashraf Ghani vowing not to allow 20 years of achievement to be lost. This amid reports that he was likely to step down and seek safe passage out of the country. Perhaps his confidence having been bolstered by a Pentagon announcement that it would send 3,000 extra troops within 48 hours to help evacuate US Embassy staff in Kabul.
3 battalions are preparing to move from their current locations in the Central Command Area of Responsibility to Kabul. I expect that by the end of the weekend, the bulk of the 3,000 that we talked about yesterday will be in place.
The United Nations, however, doesn't seem to share the confidence of either the US or Afghan President Ghani. From their vantage point and based on the unfolding humanitarian crisis, the UN says the situation is spinning out of control.
In the last months alone, more than 1,000 people have been killed or injured from indiscriminate attacks against civilians, notably in Helmand, Kandahar, and Herat provinces. At least 241,000 people have been forced to flee from their homes, and humanitarian needs are growing by the hour. Hospitals are overflowing. Food and medical supplies are dwindling. Roads, bridges, schools, clinics, and other critical infrastructure are being destroyed.
Urban warfare in Kabul will be catastrophic. One can only imagine with horror what it would look like in Kabul, a city whose population, in a sense, is increasing on a regular basis because of the fighting going on outside of the city.
The Taliban released footage on Saturday of their control over Kandahar, Afghanistan's second largest city. People are seen gathering around the gate that leads to the Kandahar governor's office as two people hoist a flag on top of the Eidgah Darwaza. Countries around the world have vowed not to recognize a Taliban government which has acquired power through force.
Seizing power through military force is a losing proposition that can only lead to prolonged civil war or to the complete isolation of Afghanistan. I call on the Taliban to immediately halt the offensive and to negotiate in good faith in the interest of Afghanistan and its people.
What we certainly can do is work with all our partners in the region and around the world who share an interest in, with us in preventing Afghanistan from once again becoming a breeding ground for terror.
That, for the moment, is being done from afar. Echoing announcements by US and other Western governments, Germany also announced reduction of their embassy staff to an operational bare minimum. While several nations have invested in Afghanistan's development over the last 20 years, for those who have fled the war-torn country, the current chain of events is another all-too-familiar tale in a never-ending saga.
नहीं हम नहीं जाएंगे वापस और मेरे ख्याल से अगर 100 साल भी गुजर जाए ना तो अफगानिस्तान ठीक नहीं होगा और पीस भी नहीं आएगा मेरे ख्याल से क्योंकि 45 साल हो गए ना अफगानिस्तान में जंग 45 साल और मेरा उम्र है 33 इयर्स और मैं जंग पे बड़ा हुआ मैंने तो कभी शांति भी नहीं देखा है पूरी उम्र में.
An affirmation of India's goodwill among the Afghan people. In contrast, Pakistani forces on Friday used force against the Afghans stranded in Pakistan as they tried to cross the Chaman-Spin-Boldak border crossing after it opened for the first time in days. The Afghan government has in the past called on Pakistan to nip the support for Taliban flowing from its territories. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, that brings us to In Focus tonight, and what we are focusing on is the UN statement. Afghanistan is spinning out of control, is what the UN says. And to discuss that, we have with us TCA Raghavan, former senior diplomat, and Professor Harshvardhan Pant, Distinguished Fellow of the Observer Research Foundation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Ambassador Raghavan, is the Taliban's return equal to the rise once again of Al-Qaeda, or the return of Al-Qaeda?
Well, that risk is certainly there. Although Taliban spokespersons have taken the position in their recent statements that they will ensure that Taliban is not used, the territory of Afghanistan is not used for terrorist activities elsewhere. Nevertheless, with a grouping such as the Taliban, its history and its modus operandi and the way it has revitalized and secured a foothold again in a very large part of Afghanistan, that risk of terrorist elements, jihadi groups like Al-Qaeda coming in its wake, that risk is certainly there. But it must also be said that possibly the Taliban leadership itself, or some elements of the Taliban leadership itself, would be alive to the dangers which this poses to them, and perhaps will try to ensure that this doesn't happen.
Indeed.
At the present juncture, it is difficult to predict how exactly the Taliban return is going to act as a fill-up to different terrorist groups who have used it in the past.
Professor Harsh Pant, these terror groups, I mean, one would say this was an endless war, but to some extent, you know, the terror groups have been put in their place. Osama bin Laden has been killed, Baghdadi has been killed. So, and the Americans feel that perhaps, you know, they've achieved something and it's time to move out. But judging by what's happening over there, what do you think? I mean, are these terror outfits vanquished at all?
Well, you know, we have also seen the rise of new outfits like ISIS. We have seen how they have come back and in some ways made parts of the world hostage to their extremist ideology. So to think therefore that for Americans to think that they have resolved the problem of terrorism to some extent is a bit foolhardy at this point. And given what we are witnessing today, and over the last few days, the dramatic upsurge in Taliban and Taliban going back on everything that they were promising. I mean, they were selling these ideas, oh, we have evolved, we have changed, this is a new Taliban, people were being told they have great interest in political reconciliation. None of that is coming to fruition. We are looking at the Taliban today, which is interested primarily in getting to power through the use of force. They are using all the instrumentalities, use of force in particular, available to them. And they're not concerned about having a political reconciliation that actually is sustainable. They're not interested in that. So I think to assume that they have changed, they have evolved in that direction. Certainly they've said a lot of things at a number of tables that they've sat through over the last few years. So I would certainly not buy very much of what they are saying in terms of not allowing their territory to be used for terror purposes against other countries. Given the experience of the past few days, I think none of us should be very complacent about the challenge that the rise of Taliban.
Right. Ambassador Raghavan, given your experience of serving in Pakistan, what would you say? I mean, is Pakistan's ISI's role very clear and visible in what's happening in Afghanistan?
Well, there is no denying that in Pakistan there is a certain sense of tranquilism that they have managed to regain the influence which many Pakistanis felt they had lost after 2001 in Afghanistan. So that sense of triumphalism, although is tinged with doubt and some anxieties, but nevertheless that sense of triumphalism is certainly there. The risk attendant with this sense of triumphalism, and this is a triumphalism which extends beyond the military and the ISI to radical groups which have often found Pakistan to be a safe sanctuary. I think the real risk is this sense of triumphalism translating itself into a sense of empowerment by different radical groups.
Indeed. Professor Pant, would you see that the 3,000 troops that are being sent to Kabul, the US is saying that it's basically there just to evacuate their own people who are there, and you know, they are not there in a military capacity. But what would you say? I mean, we heard the Afghan president speak with some confidence after that, and he was expected to resign, and he didn't resign. So, I mean, are we seeing some sort of support that's coming in from the US?
Well, perhaps, but I don't think that's a lasting solution, and I don't think, I mean, America has virtually been reduced to actually asking the Taliban not to attack their embassy.
Yes,
so this is quite a spectacle almost, you know, of a military power that was once the dominant force in Afghanistan, today asking the insurgent group not to attack them. So I don't think that their 3,000 odd troops are going to be of great help. But certainly I think there is a growing concern now across the world as to what is happening, and perhaps there are some assurances being given to Mr. Ghani that the world will stand up. But unfortunately, when it comes to the optics at the moment are pretty dismal. You have ordinary Afghans suffering every single day. You have Taliban imposing its own, medieval ideology in parts of the territory that they are controlling, and the international community is virtually sitting back and unable to do anything about it. And I think those optics, I think, will have great reverberations across the world, and international community and the West will have to reconsider some of the options on the table that perhaps they have discounted so far.
Ambassador Raghavan, President Ghani says that he's talking to everybody, so he's told the Afghan people that. But the big cities that have been taken, Kandahar and Herat, at least in Kandahar, the Taliban was already very dominant, and that's an area that, there's a porous border, and Pakistan is involved, and we know how Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan. So, I mean, this is the area of concern. I mean, they've already got where they want to be, and they're knocking on the doors of Kabul.
I think that assessment is correct. I don't think there is any way of sugarcoating what is unfolding in Afghanistan today, and that is a pretty decisive setback for the coalition or the concert which had been in place in Afghanistan for the past 20 years. I don't think we should set too much store on what a quote-unquote international community is going to say or do, because in this matter, as is often the case, there is no clear international consensus on the situation in Afghanistan. The Chinese, the Russians, even the Iranians find themselves on the opposite side to the American-led coalition, which has in fact suffered a pretty serious setback in Afghanistan over the past few months.
Professor Pant, why do you think the Afghan forces don't seem to be that prepared? I mean, after 20 years with the coalition and the U.S. forces, some reports written by people who U.S. Marines who served in Afghanistan seem to say that the Afghan forces went ahead and they were at the back most of the time, but that doesn't seem to be the case. They seem to be just capitulating.
Yes, and I think I think perhaps the biggest story coming out at the moment, that how is it that after spending billions of dollars, America failed so miserably in creating that, one of the most important institutions that you need for a modern nation state, and that is the army. Here you have an army that is, that is disappearing, that is almost melting in face of a crisis like this. And now I think some of the reasons are quite obvious. For example, I think the training, the ethnic composition, I think that the dependence on, American forces for fighting on a day-to-day basis, but they were not prepared to take on the challenge somehow that came to them in a jiffy. But I think some of the factors are also that America relied on contractors. America relied on air power primarily to train these forces, and certainly when you have a ground combat like what is happening today, they were not prepared for it. And of course they are fighting against Taliban, which is being helped by a nation state, that is the Pakistani army. So I think there is an imbalance here today, which it should not also be lost, that we have even India, for example, has been reluctant to give offensive weapons to Afghan, but on the other hand, you have the Taliban army that is now gaining access, that had that initially was being supported by the Pakistani military, and now gaining access to some of the most cutting-edge technology that is available in Afghanistan.
Indeed. If you look at some of the major players, Ambassador Raghavan, China, Russia, what are their concerns? Some reports say that the Russians would be concerned about Chechnya, the Chinese would be concerned about Xinjiang. But India, on the other hand, there are reports that even say that, the Taliban spokesperson said that India has done a good job by building all those, that infrastructure, and, that's a good thing, is what they said. So, India seems to have some goodwill even amongst the Taliban.
I think there is a huge element of goodwill amongst all Afghans for India in general, and for the kind of work which we have done in particular over there. But the issue really is that the manner in which the Taliban have come back will act as an empowering factor to many radical groups.
Yes.
And many of these threaten us as much as they threaten other countries. So certainly a Taliban military victory of this manner, particularly in the way the end game has played out over the past few months, the demoralization which had crept into the Afghan political system because of certain steps which the United States took. I think all those factors will act as an empowering factor for radical groups, and therefore which we have to be extremely concerned about.
Ambassador T.C. Raghavan and Professor Harsh Pant, thank you very much for being with us on DD India. Moving on then to our next story, the 14th of August will be observed as Partition Horrors Remembrance Day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted that there is a need to remove the poison of social divisions, disharmony, and further strengthen the spirit of oneness, social harmony, and human empowerment. Moving on then to our next story. India celebrates its 75th Independence Day on Sunday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will unfurl the tricolour and address the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort. Security has been tightened in Delhi and in other parts of the country as well to prevent any untoward incident.
The nation is all geared up to celebrate its 75th Independence Day on Sunday. The main program will be organized at the Red Fort in national capital Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will unfurl the tricolour and address the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort. In view of Independence Day celebrations, security has been tightened to thwart any untoward incident. Police is on high alert in many parts of the national capital. Along with putting up barricades, Delhi police personnel are keeping an eye on suspicious persons. Vehicles are also being searched at many places. As part of security arrangements, sensitization of cyber cafe owners and verification of tenant and servant drives are being intensively carried out. Police is also monitoring the places from where drones can be operated.
इस साल हमें जो सिक्योरिटी एजेंसीज के इनपुट हैं उसके हिसाब से खतरा ज़्यादा दिखाई देता है, तो सुरक्षा के जो भी इंतज़ाम किए गए हैं वो थोड़ा सा रीइंफोर्स्ड है। हम हर तरह से स्टेट लेवल पे और सिटी लेवल पे उनसे कोऑर्डिनेटेड एफर्ट्स में हैं। जानकारी का आदान प्रदान होता है, सूचनाओं का आदान प्रदान होता है, और जो ऑपरेशंस होते हैं वो उसी तरह से प्लान किए जाते हैं।
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Independence Day programs will be held at Sher-e-Kashmir Stadium in Srinagar and Maulana Azad Stadium in Jammu. Security agencies are on high alert to deal with any untoward incident and are keeping an eye on suspicious activities at many places in the Union Territory, including Rajouri, Samba, Jammu and Srinagar. They are not leaving anything to chance. Ahead of Independence Day celebrations, the security forces in Jammu busted a module of Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist outfit and arrested 4 terrorists.
पिछले कुछ दिनों से पाकिस्तान बैठे जैश के कमांडर जिसका नाम शाहिद इलियास मुनज़्ज़िर के नाम से यहाँ वाले उसको जानते हैं, इसकी साजिश चल रही थी जम्मू में कुछ धमाके करने की, कुछ वेपन्स भेजने की, जो कश्मीर में जो इनके जो आतंकवादी वहाँ सक्रिय हैं उनके लिए, और भी बड़े बड़े जो धमाके बाहर भी जम्मू कश्मीर से करने थे, उनकी साजिश ये कर रहा था।
According to the police, arrested terrorists were planning collection of arms dropped through drones and supplying them to active terrorists of JEM in Kashmir. With bureau inputs, News 9 Desk, DD India.
Well, as always, Doordarshan has put together a massive multi-camera setup to bring you 360-degree coverage of Independence Day. The high-definition coverage will be available across Doordarshan's channels, including DD India, from 6 o'clock in the morning.
This year, as India celebrates its 75th Independence Day to mark Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, Doordarshan and All India Radio will bring you live coverage of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech from the ramparts of Red Fort. Public service broadcaster Doordarshan has made elaborate arrangements with latest technologies to give you a rich panoramic view and rare perspectives from the ramparts of Red Fort. More than 30 cameras have been installed for live telecast of Independence Day celebration. They also include 2 beauty cams with wide-angle lens. The panoramic views will be shown through 3 PTZ cameras on the ramparts. 4 Jimmy Jibs cameras, which have been creatively placed at the venue, will greatly enhance the quality of shots with dynamic angles. Doordarshan's world-class production has become even more special with the use of rope buggy cam for the first time. The 2 360-degree cameras mounted on the rampart will provide an exciting experience for the first time for viewers connecting with online commentary of All India Radio. The camera mounted on the 120 feet high hydraulic crane will further enhance the beauty and will bring mesmerizing experience for the viewers. Rajghat is also an important part of the event. Arrangements are in place to capture every activity through creative angle of multi-cameras. 3 multi-camera HD OB vans and 4 HD DSNG vans have also been installed. A production control room has also been set up to make the event better. The main venue, Red Fort and Mahatma Gandhi's Samadhi at Rajghat, have been connected with optical fiber for clear audio and crystal clear video from Doordarshan studio. Besides, the Red Fort and Rajghat have also been connected to Doordarshan Kendra through backpack connectivity. Notably, the team of more than 100 creative people of Doordarshan along with different departments of the Government of India are busy for the last 3 months in making this event a grand success. Girish Nishana's report, DD India.
And 14th of August will be observed as Partition Horrors Remembrance Day. The Prime Minister tweeted that there is a need to remove the poison of social divisions, disharmony, and further strengthen the spirit of oneness, social harmony, and human empowerment.
Partitioning the country by way of a dotted line drawn on the map not only divides both countries geographically, but even has a profound impact on dividing the lives of people. The partition led to the displacement of lakhs of people, forcing them to leave their homes and migrate to a new country. This has been the single largest ever displacement and migration in recent history on account of factors other than war or famine. The displaced carried with them the wounds of partition, but they also taught us a lesson. Perhaps that's why on the occasion of the 75th Independence Day, Prime Minister announced that 14th of August will be observed as Partition Horrors Remembrance Day. In a tweet, he said, "May the Partition Horrors Remembrance Day keep reminding us of the need to remove the poison of social divisions, disharmony, and further strengthen the spirit of oneness, social harmony, and human empowerment. Partition's pains can never be forgotten. Millions of our sisters and brothers were displaced and many lost their lives due to mindless hate and violence. In memory of the struggles and sacrifices of our people, 14th August will be observed as Partition Horrors Remembrance Day. But it is not easy to forget that pain which ravaged lakhs of families forever, though one can take valuable lessons."
मैं पाकिस्तान से जब आया था, हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान की लड़ाई हुई थी और उसमें फादर साहब ने मेरे को उधर लेकर आया था।
मेरे दादाजी सन 1947 में जंग के दौरान और पाकिस्तान से हमारे दादाजी हमको लेकर हिंदुस्तान में आए थे और पाकिस्तान में हम तहसील विलेज कोटली मनासा और तहसील एंड डिस्ट्रिक्ट गुजरात और सियालकोट से हम हिंदुस्तान में वापस आए और वापस आकर हम जहाँ पे सेटल हो गए।
Home Minister in his message says, "The wound of the partition of the country and the grief of losing loved ones cannot be described in words. I am sure that Partition Horrors Remembrance Day will strengthen peace, love, and unity by eliminating the ill will of discrimination and malice from society." Union INB Minister Anurag Thakur in his tweet message said, "Partition Horrors Remembrance Day will help all Indians in promoting unity, inclusiveness, and social values while recalling the sacrifice of our ancestors." India and Pakistan gained independence at the same time. The British colonial rule over India ended on 15th August 1947. Prior to independence, for several months, negotiations and discussions took place with regard to partition of the country. A separate country based on religion was created in the form of Pakistan, but it was India that remained true to its ethos of unity in diversity. Bureau Report, DD India.
President Ram Nath Kovind hosted high tea for the Indian contingent of the Tokyo Olympics 2020 at the Rashtrapati Bhavan Cultural Centre. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu graced the occasion. While interacting with the Indian contingent of the Tokyo Olympics, the President said that the entire country is proud of them for bringing glory to the nation. This team has won the highest number of medals in the history of our participation in the Olympics so far. Their achievements have inspired the youth to take part in sports, he said, adding that a positive attitude towards sports has always been created among the parents. The President said that India's performance in the Tokyo Olympics was outstanding, not only in terms of achievements but also in terms of potential. Most of the players are in the beginning of their sporting career, and the spirit and skill with which all of them have performed in Tokyo, India would have an impressive presence in the world of sports in times to come. The President congratulated the entire Indian contingent for their excellent efforts and appreciated the role played by coaches, support staff, family members, well-wishers, who've all contributed to their preparations.
टोक्यो में सर्वश्रेष्ठ प्रदर्शन करने के लिए मैं सभी खिलाड़ियों को बधाई देता हूं। आप सबकी इस टीम ने ओलंपिक के हमारे इतिहास में सबसे अधिक पदक जीते हैं। पूरा देश इस उपलब्धि पर गौरवान्वित है, इसके लिए भी आप सबको बहुत बहुत बधाई। हमें आज अपनी उन बेटियों पर विशेष रूप से गर्व है जिन्होंने अनेक बाधाओं के बावजूद विश्व स्तर का प्रदर्शन किया। जब आप खेल प्रतियोगिताओं में हिस्सा लेते हैं तो कभी आप जीतते हैं और कभी हारते भी हैं, लेकिन हर बार आप कुछ न कुछ सीखते जरूर हैं। मुझे ये जानकर खुशी हुई कि टोक्यो ओलंपिक के दौरान आप सबने जीत को विनम्रता के साथ और हार को गरिमा के साथ स्वीकार किया।
Congratulating Neeraj Chopra, President Ram Nath Kovind said that the nation had waited a long time to hear the national anthem being played at the Olympic Games.
कई वर्षों के बाद ओलंपिक में जब हमारा तिरंगा सबसे ऊपर लहराया गया और हमारा राष्ट्रगान बजाया गया, उस समय सभी देशवासियों की भावनाएं नीरज चोपड़ा के साथ जुड़ी हुई थी। और सभी देशवासियों की एक ही भावना थी कि विजयी विश्व तिरंगा प्यारा, झंडा ऊंचा रहे हमारा।
And as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav 2021, Union Ministers Anurag Thakur, Mansukh Mandavia and Kiran Rijiju rode bicycles from the Major Dhyan Chand National Stadium to Akbar Road in the national capital during the Pedal for Health program. And speaking on the occasion, the Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports, Anurag Thakur, highlighted the paradigm shift in priorities of people centering around health. The minister also put forth the idea of fitness ka dose Adha Ganta Rose. And Anurag Thakur urged people to give at least half an hour a day to health, performing any physical activity.
इससे अच्छा क्या हो सकता है कि हम 75वें वर्षगांठ पर देश के लोगों को जागरूक करें और कहें पैडल फॉर हेल्थ, बिकॉज हेल्थ इज वेल्थ। And during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the world was facing this challenge, we had to reimagine, reset our life. There are many things which have changed. Priorities have changed. The thought process has changed. आप किसी आम जनमानस से बात भी करेंगे जिसके लिए जीवन में पहले बहुत अलग अलग प्रायोरिटीज थी, आज उसके लिए भी अपनी सेहत ही प्रायोरिटी है। और इससे अच्छा क्या हो सकता है कि फिटनेस का डोज आधा घंटा रोज।
Here with DD India, here's a reminder of what to expect all day on Sunday.
India's 75th Independence Day, DD India will bring to you the national spirit from India's mainland to its shore.
As India celebrates Amrit Mahotsav of independence, DD India will bring you the mood of the nation.
We will bring to you the transforming face of India from across the length and breadth of the country.
From the Bogibeel Bridge in Assam, watch with me how connectivity is on the rise in Northeast India.
I will tell you how one nation, one ration card, Mudra and PMJY are touching lives in Bihar.
After abrogation of Article 370, grassroots democracy is being strengthened.
From Kevadia, I will bring to you the essence of India's unity in diversity and how our freedom fighters, the heroes of our freedom struggle, are getting their rightful place in history.
And from Bengaluru, the headquarters of India's space odyssey. From ISRO, I will tell you about the reforms in space sector that promise to make India a superpower in space technology.
Get a sneak peek into the first made-in-India aircraft carrier of the Indian Navy with me, Nandita Dagar, from the INS Vikrant.
From benchmark infrastructure development to landmark decisions, shaping our course to a new India. On 15th of August, watch with us India's journey towards self-reliance.
A total of 1,380 police personnel have been awarded medals on the occasion of Independence Day this year. The President's Police Medal for Gallantry has been awarded to 2 police personnel, while 628 personnel have been awarded the Police Medal for Gallantry. Also, the President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service has been awarded to 88 police personnel, while 662 personnel have been awarded the Police Medal for Meritorious Service. President Ram Nath Kovind, who is also the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, has approved the 144 Gallantry Awards to the Armed Forces, the police and paramilitary personnel on the eve of Independence Day 2021. These include 1 Ashok Chakra, 1 Kirti Chakra, 15 Shaurya Chakras, 4 Bar to Sena medals for gallantry, 16 Sena medals, that's for gallantry, 5 Now Sena medals, this is also for gallantry, and 2 Vayu Sena medals for gallantry. The President has also approved 28 mention in dispatches to the Army personnel for their significant contribution in different military operations, which include 3 posthumous for Operation Rakshak. And we leave you with these images of the nation's iconic landmarks, all lit up in the colors of independence. Good night. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.